Hi, this is Dr. McClellan, and this video is about the thesis statement short writing assignment for Essay 3. First of all, if you're watching this and you've been doing these assignments, yay! It's almost over. This is our last essay other than the final exam essay. So your assignment goal is to write a one-sentence persuasive thesis statement about an academic issue with a should or should not and because stance, and then of course a plan of development with 3 major supporting details that support your stance. So what does that mean? So persuasive essays, their goal is to either, their purpose anyway, is to get your audience to either one, agree with what you've said, or do something that that you've asked them to do. So we do a should or should not. So you're going to use one or the other. You're not going to use both. You're not going to write both sides of the fence. Either the whole essay is about what should be done or believed, or it's about what should not be done or believed. And then the because stance, this explains the why. This is the why. So we'll get to an example in a minute, and it'll make a little bit more sense. And I do hope that you have found these assignments to be focused and efficient. That's why I've designed them this way. If you don't think they've been focused and efficient for you, you're welcome to send me an email. I'm always happy to talk about my assignments. Student feedback is what has helped me evolve these and design these assignments so that students aren't taking hours and hours and hours to write. All right, so the first thing, read chapter 11, which is the in our textbook, which is the chapter on argument. Argument is persuasion, and there's more than one kind of persuasive writing. And typically, argument's the big one. It's the one we focus on. But descriptive writing can be argumentative, can be persuasive. Process analysis writing can be persuasive. It just depends on what your purpose is. All right, so you have a video to watch, and you have an example document, of course, to look at. Now, let's talk about the academic issue that's not a moral issue. And of course, I'm repeating a lot of things from the first and second essay assignments. So it needs to be, hold on. It needs to be an academic issue. That means there needs to be research on it in the library. You're welcome to go ahead and take a look on the library's website to make sure there's academic journal peer-reviewed articles about your topic. But we're also not we're not going to write about moral issues. First of all, it's very difficult to persuade people unless they already agree with you about moral issues. Abortion is definitely on the do not write about list. And it does, the next one is your academic issue can be anything not on the forbidden list. Be sure you look at the forbidden list in my syllabus. If someone believes in abortion, you're not going to change their mind. If someone doesn't believe in abortion, you're not going to change their minds. And it comes down more to a morality issue. And Roe versus Wade was actually a legality issue. These are interesting times to live in because Roe versus Wade was actually it wasn't about the morality of abortion. This may surprise you, but there are a lot of people who are pro-life who have had abortions, and there are a lot of people who are pro-choice who would never have an abortion because it's never been about the morality of it, despite what both political parties want to say. It's actually about the legality of it, and it comes into, should the federal government mandate what women can and can't do to their bodies? Or should the states mandate what they can or cannot do with their bodies? It's always been about the legal issue, not about the moral issue. Moral issues are things that um, that you can't convince somebody. I mean, you don't, unless you've taught a person their morals, you're not going to change their mind. You're just not. And it's also, we don't legislate morals. I mean, even obscenity laws are difficult to prosecute because what one person thinks is obscene, another person does not. And it just doesn't work well. And it eventually falls apart if you try to legislate it too. That's what's happening in Iran right now with in the Middle East and Iran, with women not wanting to wear the burqas anymore. You know, the thing that completely covers them. So, and the hijab, they're wearing the hijab and they're wearing the head coverings, but they don't want to cover their faces anymore. And then some of them have gone so far as they don't want to cover their hair anymore too, so they don't want to wear the hijab. So it's very difficult to legislate morality. So we're not picking moral issues. We are picking academic issues. And it doesn't have to be academic, remember, doesn't mean it's about school. It means that there's academic research about it. All right. Be sure to check the syllabus for the no-no topics. And be sure to check the library also about whether or not there's research about your topic. You can also look on Google Scholar. But this one specifically, Essay 3, it's all library research with the limiters that are required. So you need to go ahead and be doing that. And you'll notice I don't have on here that you can go ahead and include the research in the pre-writing. I'm sorry, in the thesis statement. But you are welcome to go ahead and take a look for it if you want to. Hold on. Okay, sorry. And also be sure to pick an academic topic you know some things about. Now, if you're having problems with this one, because it has to be an issue, so it has to have a pro and a con, you can just go to Google and issues in the U.S. I would stick to the U.S. I wouldn't get too far out of the U.S. And you can do a search, and let's look. So I started with a Google search. And here's a whole big list of them: healthcare, immigration, not religious freedom, marriage, education, the cost of college, and the cost of college. Let's do the cost of college. Yeah, there's plenty of articles. Oh, let me put articles in here. Here we go. Yeah. So there's plenty about the cost of college, and you know about the cost of college because you're in college. So from here, I would go look on the library's website and see what's available there. All right. And that's where you're going to get, so if you think, there's so many avenues, so many ways you can address the cost of college. Who should pay for it? Should it be free? Should the states pay for it? Should the federal government pay for it? Should both pay for it? Should there be student loans anymore? Should student loans be forgiven? There's just a whole lot of different things, and people have opinions about these things. And if you have a really big opinion, you can get enough information that you could probably write. You could probably have 3 major supporting details in your plan of development and write enough in your pre-writing about all of it. All right, so let's go look at our example. So again, remember, persuasive essays, their main purpose is to get audience to do something or believe something. That's your purpose. So the first thing a persuasive thesis statement does is it states a claim in its stance, and then it supports that claim in the plan of development. Now this is a little different from the other 2 essays. So here's my claim. should, and then here's my support. The because sentence, because part of the statement is part of the stance, but it actually leads into my plan of development with my major supporting details. Again, we're not using any be verbs, which is really easy because you're going to say should or should not. So here's my example. Apples should be required in every school lunch because they have fiber, vitamins, and flavor. And that is a pro-con issue. There are people who would agree with that and people who would disagree with that. So you want to make sure, there are people who agree and people who don't agree. It's kind of like sports. It's kind of like sports, where you have some people around here who are huge Dallas Cowboy fans, and then you have people around here who absolutely hate the Dallas Cowboys. That's an issue. There's a pro side and a con side. Pro means for, con means against. But looking at the price of gas right now, that's not a pro-con issue. Everybody thinks gas is expensive right now, and it keeps going up. So you need something. Now, if you want to talk about why gas is expensive, that's a pro-con issue. But the fact that gas is going up, the price of gas is going up, that's irrefutable. That's a fact. We can watch it. There's some of the news outlets I follow that every day one of them puts up a graph of how much gas prices have risen. So yeah, that's a fact. That's not an issue. So be sure that you choose an issue, a pro side and a con side, people who agree with you, people who won't agree with you. Okay, now this video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to go ahead and go through the whole example document because you've done all this before. Okay, so as usual, your pre-writing needs to have depth and scope, 400 to 600 words. 90% of those words should be in your final draft. Yes, I do check. Some of you have gotten emails from me this semester because I'm like, wait a minute, where did these words come from? So you're going to do it the same old way. You're going to have your topic, and you're going to answer the 6 reporters' questions. Be sure that you label everything. Some people are not writing the questions, and kind of my goal, and if you're still writing out the questions and writing out the answers, that is perfectly fine with me. I still do it. Yes, I use this method of writing. I still write out my questions because I want to make sure that I've answered all the questions I possibly can. Because when I write things, like I write really long things, like my dissertation is, it's a 5-chapter book. And I started it by asking all the who questions I could about my topic, all the what questions, all the where questions, all the when, all the why, and all the how. So the next step past this semester in this class is you would have more than one who question about the topic. You would have all the who questions. So, or as many as you can think of. The longer the document is supposed to be, the more of this you can use. So you could have 3 who questions, 5 what questions, 10 where questions, 7 when, 7 why questions, and 1 how question, just in your topic section. But that's for a different time. That's for out in the workforce or for a different English class, a higher English class. Right now, you just need the 6. I've got the ones about my stance, and then I've got one for each of my major supporting details, just like always. Now, you know how to get you should know. Most of y'all are doing pretty good, actually. I'm real pleased. It's been really, really nice to read y'all's your outlines. So you get your pre-writing ready for your outline. and you put it in the outline. Remember, it doesn't matter whether you use Word, Word Online, Word on your computer, Google Docs, Pages. It's always going to put them on the same level because you have to tell it what level to put in. Now, I realize that, my example, because this is just an example, it's not exact. I realize that. It's not supposed to be exact. It's an example. Be sure, don't forget that some of your sentences need to be tabbed over. And it's not about, do you have the same sentences tabbed over that I have tabbed over? And it's not about, do I have at least one in each section tabbed over? That's not what it's about. What it's supposed to be about is what sentences need to be tabbed over. So let's take a look at this first section. Apples are grown commercially everywhere in the world, usually in cool climates. Harvesting takes place in the month, they are harvested in the fall months in the United States. So this is about growing and this is about harvesting. This sentence is a continuation of this idea. And then most people eat apples because they taste good and are healthy. And this is a continuation of how people eat them. Most are eaten raw, but apple pie is pretty common. Common holiday dessert in the United States. It used to be something that people ate on a weekly basis. Everybody made an apple pie, especially during apple season, because that was one of the ways you used up your apples. And that's how they became a holiday pie, is because they are harvested in the fall. All right, so what you're doing is you're going through and you're looking for sentences that support the sentence above it and moving it to the right. Now, I'm not going to don't move these. Let me highlight these with red. You don't ever want to move over your very first sentence. If you feel like your very first sentence supports something other than the very first sentence of that paragraph, then you need to move it. So you always want to go Roman numeral 1, level 1, capital letter, level 2, and then Arabic number, level 3, in those first 3 lines here and 2 lines in the rest of your outline. So I could move this over, but I can't move this one over because you don't want to skip a level between the first sentence of the section and the second sentence of the section. And in this outline, think about the order that you've got your sentences in. Some of your sentences need to be moved around. Check and make sure. Make sure. I realize that some people are trying to put them all in the exact same order as they are in their pre-writing, but that's not necessarily the best way to do it. Take a look at it. And if you need to, move sentences between sections if you think it'll do better in one section than the original section it's in. You just want to make sure. Oh, where's my last section? Oh, what did I do? Oh, I screwed up somehow, didn't I? Oh, there we go. Oh, I know, right? It's not gonna let me do it, is it? Okay, well, hold on. One more way to skin a cat. There we go. Oh, sorry. Where was I? Oh, so make sure that they don't need to be moved around. You definitely need thesis statement as the last sentence of this first section. You definitely need a topic sentence that matches your plan of development. So fiber, vitamins, vitamins, flavor, flavor. And you'll notice when you get to this part, because you recognize what you're doing now, you understand what you're doing because you've done it twice before. You probably don't need any highlighting. I know this section's about vitamins because it's vitamins. Vitamins, vitamins, they as in vitamins, vitamins. I could rearrange all of this if I wanted to, and still be able to put all the sentences back in the right sections. So that's the next level of college writing, is moving things around so they make more sense, so that your coherency and unity is better, but also recognizing the way this outline works and being able to move it around and reassemble it even without the highlighting. Because one of the things, and this is all part of my evil plan, here's what learning how to outline does. It trains your brain. It trains your brain. And it changes your brain, and it trains your brain to think logically. To think logically. Not linear necessarily, but logically. So this is about apples, so I need the word apples all over the place. Enough that my audience knows it's about apples. Should be required. Okay? Should be required because, and here's my 3 reasons why. They have fiber, vitamins, and flavor. So I know the first section is going to be about fiber. I know that the second section is going to be about vitamins. I know that the third section is going to be about flavor. And then I'm going to wrap it all up with the prediction that people are always going to eat apples because they're always going to be healthy. I mean, even whenever you dip them in caramel, they're still pretty healthy. Maybe not as healthy, but they're healthy. That's what I tell myself every Halloween when I have my 1 caramel apple a year, because I'm diabetic and I'm not supposed to have them. All right, back to my outline. So you're training your brain to think logically. And some of us already do that. Most of us already do that. I mean, you don't get up in the morning and just run hither or thither like a toddler, from one thing to another. I had a toddler who was very easily distracted. He probably has ADD, and it was never diagnosed because, except for video games and movies, things he's really interested in, and drawing and painting, I couldn't get him to focus on one thing at a time. He was the kind, look, I'm going to tell you a personal story. So I had one kid who is very detail oriented. He ate. So typically I tried to have at least 3 things on a plate for them to eat, one of them being a vegetable. And he would eat all of the food he didn't like at first, carrots. And he would eat the food he disliked the least second. So he'd eat all of his pork chop. And then he would save the best food for last, the one he liked the most. So he always ate his macaroni and cheese last. And I asked him about it. I mean, he's done this since he was, started to eat, since he started feeding himself, actually, when he was about 2, 3. I let mine feed themselves with their hands pretty early. So he was about 6, I guess. And I said, JP, why do you eat like that? Why do you eat what you don't like first and then what you don't like the, second, and then eat the food you like the most? And I swear to God, I like to have fell out of my chair laughing. Little 6-year-old, cutest little boy ever, looks up at me and says, Mama, I always eat the food I like last because that's what my burps taste like. I laughed until I cried. So yeah, that 6-year-old is 42 this year, and he is raising a 5-year-old, his own son. It's been really funny. He texts me and emails me and says, why does he do this? I'm like, probably because you did it when you were little, or your brother did it, or your sister did it. It's been fun. When you get to be a grandparent, you'll understand. It's retribution for your kids. So my other son, Brian, the middle child, he would eat a little of this and a little of that and a little of that and ooh and ooh and ooh and hey, look out the window, squirrel. Um, and one of the things that we worked on, that we had to work on with him in school, was getting his brain, training his brain to function in a logical manner, because I would have to, the other two I didn't have to worry about, but Brian, every morning I would lay his clothes out and I would say, okay, put this on, put this on, put this on, put this on. Or he'd put his shoes and socks on and then try to put on his shorts or his pants. And we all know that's not right. That's hard to do because he got easily distracted. And so over his childhood and how I got him to do things, and also in school, we trained his brain to think logically in an outline format, or at least in a list. So when he was real little, I'd be, okay, what do you put on first? My shorts. What do you put on second? My short. He was real cute too. He used to, sorry for the profanity, but he was so cute. When he was like 4, he had a little bit of a list. He'd say, I put on my shit first. No, you put on your shirt first. Then what do you put on, Brian? My socks. He put on his socks and then his shoes. So I trained him to think in list, important tasks. If he was just playing or eating or whatever, just do whatever you want to do. You do you, boo. So when he started going to school and having to write things, this is one of the things that I taught him. And I know about outlines because I'm more like Brian than I am JP. I don't know what to do. And what happened for Brian, what would happen to me, I probably have ADD too, but I'm an old fart, and it wasn't a thing when I was a kid. I would see that and 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 that, and my mind would completely implode, and I couldn't do anything. I was stunned. I just froze, and I couldn't get my work done. Well, in about 6th grade, I had an English teacher, a homeroom English teacher named Mr. Gans. Best teacher I ever had. He was a young black man, and he was awesome. I loved him. And he taught me how to make a list of things that I needed to do. So for my class, he would always take a minute at the end of class, and he would get everybody in the class, okay, everybody write down what's the first thing you need to do for this class's homework tonight. And we'd write that down. And then, okay, now write down the second thing you need to do. Write down the third thing you need to do. Write down the fourth. And he taught us how to list things and how to go back and check off that list. Check off that list. I wish that Blackboard would let me put a list for the instructions in my assignments, make a list so that you guys could check them off as you do them, but it's not capable of doing that. This whole having it check off as you do each assignment overall, that's brand new to Blackboard. Maybe in a couple of years it will. So then, to make a short story really long, then as I got into college, because the listing served me well all throughout high school, as I got into college, I started looking at outlines in my writing, because it's different. Writing is different. If you're going to do, I need to do this, 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 the importance of the item in the list is determined by how up in the list. The most important thing goes first. The least important thing, I always call that maybe part of the list. Maybe I'll get to this day. Maybe I won't. If I don't, it's okay, and just go on tomorrow's list. It's determined by, the importance is determined by where you put it in the list. Writing is different. Writing is sectional. That's why I refer to these as sections on the outline, and they are sections on an outline. But paragraphs in an essay are also sections. They're just formatted differently. I know, right? And in those sections, you have things that are more important than other things. For example, this sentence is more important than this sentence. And this sentence is more important than this sentence. So it's okay that they're in the list like that, but this sentence, okay, time to blow your mind. This sentence is also less important than this sentence. So I would have to, if I'm going to list these, I would have this sentence, and then in my list I would have this sentence and this sentence, which makes no doggone sense. What? Wait, we're jumping around here. It doesn't make sense. So with an outline, because I've said, okay, this sentence is less important than this sentence and this and this sentence. But it needs to go with this sentence. I just moved it over a level. I just moved it closer to the right margin, which says, okay, this needs to be in, these sentences need to be in this order, but this sentence needs to be moved away from the left margin, closer to the right margin, because it is secondary to both this sentence and this sentence. What? Yeah. So what we're doing when we do outlines like this, we're not just improving our coherency and unity in our essays, we're actually training our brains to think logically at a deeper level, a higher level. It's a higher level of writing, and it's a deeper level of cognitive thinking. So when you make outlines, you're actually using a deeper part of your brain, a deeper, smaller part of your brain that you literally have to develop through use. We have it because almost everybody, because Brian always has problems with lists. Most of us can make a list, but not all of us can make an outline. And it's not because we lack the ability, it's because we haven't trained our brains to do that. There's a lot of brain training games out there. I play one myself. But we can train our brains to do these things without games. And writing is one of the ways that we train our brains to think logically. So this is why we do outlines. We are training our brains. And you may think about it, oh, I predict in about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, you're going to be out there in the workforce and you're going to be looking at something. Your boss is going to say, I want you to do such and such with this document. You're going to go, I want you to analyze this document. And you're going to go, okay. And you're going to start doing an outline. And you're going to be looking at these sentences, thinking to yourself, this information is part of this information above it, so I need to move that over. And you're going to go, oh, that dreaded Dr. McClellan, she was right. I am using this. Yeah, because you're training your brain in my class. Remember what I said at the beginning of the semester? Writing is the vehicle, but critical thinking is the passenger. And this is higher level critical thinking. And I want you to think higher. Well, I'm just a welder. Well, I'm just a process operator. Well, I'm just a dental hygienist. Well, I'm just an accounting clerk. Yeah, I want the welders to be smarter and think better because I don't want them blowing me up. Same thing for you, process and instrumentation. If you work in a chemical plant around the chemicals, I want you to be extreme. I want you to be a freaking genius because I don't want you to blow me up. If you've ever wondered what would happen if one of these plants, if there was an uncontrolled explosion in any of the plants between Houston and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I can tell you somebody's already looked at it. It's a book from the 1980s, scared the living bejesus out of me. If we have a big enough explosion, it'll cause a chain reaction all the way from Houston, Texas to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It will be a minimum of a 5-mile deep hole, and it will it will spread all the way to possibly Florida. I don't know if you know this or not, but Texas used to be a huge inland sea. We will be an endless sea again. Yes, an inland sea again. So, yeah, that's why I want all of my students to think critically better. That's my goal. And if you're in an allied health program, if you're in dental hygiene, if you're in HTTP, health information technology, if you're in sonography, ultrasound, you're literally dealing with you're dealing with people's information and you're dealing with people's bodies. You have to be able to think critically about how not to hurt this person, but also how to get what you need. You need to be able to do what you need to do. Accounting clerks, business majors, you need to know not just is this possible to do this, is it feasible, but also is it ethical? Should I do this? I know my boss told me to do this, but is this ethical? Was this going to get me arrested? Or I keep some of y'all out of jail. Same thing with public service and safety. You've got to be able to think like a criminal, but smarter than a criminal. Like a criminal, but smarter than a criminal. So, yeah, you're training, and that's part of what college does for you. That's why this is a college level English class for everything from accounting clerks to welders. That's why you take this, because it's supposed to be teaching you how to think better critically. All right, so onward. So your research for this one, you have to have 5 secondary sources, 5 quotes, 5 different secondary sources. Be sure to read the assignment instructions. This is an example. It doesn't follow that exactly. And you can put these quotes in any of your sections. Any of your outline sections can have at least 1 quote. You can use 2 quotes in 1 section only. Excuse me. So if you can't find a quote that say will go in your introduction section of your outline, then look for a second one that will go into one of your body sections. That's fine. But you can only do that 1 time. So this is going to be a little bit difficult, a little bit harder to research. And that's why I tell everybody, don't wait for this one. If you want to go ahead and start your research, with the thesis statement or the pre-writing, you're welcome to do that. If you do include your research in your pre-writing and your outline before you even get to the research outline, make sure that you put quotation marks around your quotes and put the author's name in parentheses after it. And then because I'm not going to grade your MLA formatting in the pre-writing or the outline, and you can correct it when you get to the research assignment, or if you want to go ahead and do it correctly in the pre-writing, you're welcome to do that. That's the other thing that I've been trying to get everybody to move towards. You should always be thinking an assignment, 2 assignments, 3 assignments ahead. That's why my assignments are scaffold like they are. You always want to be thinking to the next step. And if you want to go ahead and do that next step, say, for example, if you want to go ahead and put do your direct quotes with your lead-ins and your in-text citations and your works cited page in the pre-writing, that's fine with me. Then all you have to do is go through and do the outline and turn it in twice. Turn it in to me once as the outline and once as the research outline. And then you can move on to the draft. If you learn this process, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the final draft. You know what the final draft's supposed to look like. You know what the works cited is supposed to look like. I only have 1. You have to have 5. Don't forget, read the assignment instructions. These are examples. If you learn this and you use this process, you can actually, once you've learned it and practiced it, you can actually condense it to the point that you've got your pre-writing, you've got your thesis statement. You write your thesis statement. you edit your thesis statement, you do your pre-writing, you edit your pre-writing, you put your research in your pre-writing, you go ahead and do all of your quotation MLA formatting in your pre-writing, and then you outline it to make sure everything's unified and coherent, and you get good enough at it. You don't even have to do that. When you're looking at your pre-writing, you're going, oh, that's out of place. Let me move that down. I'm going to move it right here. So, or let me rewrite it so that it fits here. You'll start recognizing that, and then put it in a draft and check the grammar, punctuation, spelling, usage, academic style. You might even be doing that in your pre-writing ahead of time, and then submit it as a final draft. So you could get to the point that you're doing a thesis, writing a thesis statement, writing a pre-writing with research and coherency and unity, formatting it as a draft, checking your grammar, punctuation, spelling, usage, and submitting it. And you could actually be doing all of that in your pre-writing, and then just formatting it as a final draft and submitting it. You could do 3 steps. You could that pre-writing step is the most important step in your writing, and you can put a lot, you can get it to carry a lot of things, a lot of things. All right. So this is a different video. This is our last essay. This is my last video for the semester, and I like to get you ready for the next thing, the next class, the next level, not just your next English class. I want you to continue to learn how to think logically and critically and creatively. And so I want you to continue with that. It doesn't matter, I mean, like again, accounting to welder. The better you think, the more logically you think, the more critically you think, the better your brain works, the more likely you are to succeed. And that's what we're here for. We're here to get degrees so that we get jobs, so that we can succeed in our lives. That not only just in our work life, in our career life, but also in our personal life. Also in our personal life. You know, you hear about people who are, you know, millions of dollars in debt. And you ask yourself, how does that even happen? Well, I tell you how it happens. They're not thinking logically. They're not thinking critically. They're just responding. They're just doing. They think, I want this, and they do it. And they're not looking at the cost. And so thinking critically and logically can improve your life in many, many ways. All right. So this is my last video. And if you've stuck it to the end of the semester, stuck out to the end of the semester with me, I appreciate you. And I hope that this writing process, I hope that my writing process has not just helped you learn a little bit about your own writing, but learned how to improve your writing, because that's our goal, is to always improve our writing. All right. Sorry it's so long. Bye.